This is Dan Decker, host of Bad Choices in Bourbon, but I'll tell you what isn't a bad choice, catching up with Spock the Week.
Thank you once again for joining us at Spock the Week, and it's just me and Gregor this week. We seem to have scared off all our regular guests, and this week, for some strange reason, I felt the need to give Gregor the choice of subject. I have not been told what this is. I have not any clue, so my apologies in advance for whatever he may come up with. So, Gregor, what are we going to be talking about this week, please?
Well, we'll come to that in a moment. But you mentioned the audience member. So anyone that's listening to this, there'll be lots of in-jokes that are just between JJ and myself, and Ian that's listening, the audience member that listens to us. If you're listening and you're laughing at some of these jokes, then you're obviously in the in-crowd. You know, Star Trek shows, they go for diversity. That's not what we're about. We're all about exclusivity.
Well, let's put it this way. We were certainly diverse on the recording we did with Sean Ferrick. If you remember that one. Yes, yeah. That was the start of a bad joke right there. An Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman walk into a podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are you going? I feel like this is going to go off the rails straight away. To be honest with you, something.
We have one audience member, so we have exclusivity, and I really don't think we need anything else.
To be honest with you, I don't even know why we bother doing this. We could just phone him.
Yeah, we could just have a chat over the phone. How you doing, Ian? But yeah.
I mean, we do have somebody in Texas though. Every week I check the analytics for what they're worth, because podcasting analytics are nowhere near as good as, say, YouTube's, for example. But I check it every week, and every week there is at least one download from Texas. Now, if you happen to be listening to this, you've forgotten to unsubscribe.
Well, maybe they're planning on coming to Scotland at some point. Maybe they don't like Star Trek. They live in Texas and they don't like Star Trek, but they're coming to Scotland on holiday, and they're just trying to get used to the accent.
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe they're coming to Yorkshire. Maybe they're going to your part of the world.
Maybe so. I mean, as we record this episode as well, Texas seems to have fallen into a parallel universe. I have been absolutely loving the content on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, with all the piss taking that's been going on of people from Texas and the South, because they've just gotten what they say is a snow apocalypse. Yeah, I've seen the videos.
Yes, I've seen a couple of pictures.
There's like an inch and a half of snow on the ground.
Inch and a half of snow. They've never lived.
Oh well, for all our lovely fans and listeners from Texas, we hope you got through that okay. And if you need us for anything, we'll try not to laugh too hard.
Yeah. Get in touch if you want. If you're that listener from Texas, we'd love to know what you love about the show, what you like about the show. If you've got any ideas, if you want to come on, feel free to get in touch with us.
Yes, please do.
Love to hear from you.
The contact details will be in the show notes as always, so look us up and get in touch, and we'd be happy to hear from you. So now we've pretty much offended both of our listeners, well, one of our listeners, possibly two. Maybe we have three. Can we count Sarah as a third?
She's been on it a few times, so
yeah,
I don't know.
All right, fair enough. So before we lose any more listeners, what are we going to be talking about this week?
Well, we have this up and coming. No, in fact, actually, see, before we get to this, I'm just going to go off again.
For fuck's sake.
What have you been watching on TV this week?
What have I been watching? Well, you know something? I've actually started, again, I'm always late to the party when it comes to these things. I've started watching Snowpiercer. Okay.
That's decent.
It's you know something, so far, I'm only a few episodes into it so far, and it is pretty decent. It's certainly watchable. I am wanting to watch the episodes following on, so I've not hit that brick wall where I'm like, am I just watching this because I feel the need, or am I watching it because I want to know what happens? I'm still at that I want to know what happens stage. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been watching this week.
I mean, it's actually well done. I think the story's, it's got good stars. It's got Sean Bean. It's got Jennifer Connelly. It's actually got a decent story. It's quite intriguing. I've not seen season 2, but season 1 is this murder mystery, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's like the Murder on the Orient Express with a twist of apocalypse about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, where I'm not quite so sure, if there was an Ice Age apocalypse coming, and you have the money, the means, and the engineering knowledge to build a railway line of tunnels and bridges that circumnavigates the globe, I'm not sure that was the best engineering solution.
No, but like I say, I mean, we're talking
maybe they could have done something a bit more practical and less prone to failure than that. But that's just me. But that aside, it's pretty decent.
I think, to be honest with you, could that not be an example, like what's the word? An example of how frivolity and money can basically, you can do, you can do these weird and wonderful and often ostentatious things, you know what I mean?
Originally it was a South Korean movie, and as you know, South Korean movies are in vogue at the moment with
there was one I watched.
As you say, quite rightly, the train line is a metaphor for that ostentatious vanity project of certain billionaires, shall we say, in society.
It's funny you should mention Korean movies being in vogue, because I actually watched one recently. I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically about this junker ship that finds this girl and basically reunites this girl with her family. But there's a billionaire philanthropist, crazy guy that's created this situation where only a selection of people can go to their colony on Mars. But this girl has the key, the secret to basically reinvigorating the Earth, terraforming the Earth back to its former glory and stuff like that. There's something about her, without going into too much detail, that does that, and it's a really good story. And I tell you what, to be fair, I think these Korean and Chinese movie productions, some of them badly dubbed, but then again, we were doing that to them for years. But some of them have been actually recorded, looped in English, so not dubbed but looped in English. And it's, something, I think there's some of them, the stories are good, the stories are original. They're actually coming up with new stories and concepts, which I think is brilliant. And it's kind of the science fiction element of it. They're going into new things. They're trying new stories, I don't know if you've heard of or seen the one where they launch Earth farther away from the sun in order to keep it from boiling away, and it goes out of control. And but anyway, that's it's far out there, but it's not a rehash. They're not copies of movies gone by. They're not copies of stories gone by. They're brand new, out of the box stories, concepts, and science fiction. So, and I think that's probably why they're doing so well, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because it's original. It's original, and
I mean, I'll tell you what I've been watching. If you've been following my Facebook posts, it'll come as no surprise to you that I have fell in love with For All Mankind, which is maybe passed a lot of people by because it's on Apple TV, which isn't the most popular of the streams, I don't believe, unless you've got an Apple device. I don't think too many people without Apple devices subscribe to it, so I did go, because it was recommended to me, so I went searching for it, and I downloaded the Apple TV app onto my Roku stick. I'm not going to say too much about it because I'm going to put you out your misery about what we're going to be talking about tonight.
we're not doing too badly there.
I've just finished season 1 last night at 2 o'clock in the morning. Believe it or not, on a Tuesday night, I stayed up till 2 o'clock watching it because the last episode just the whole series blew me away. But
I forgot to put my phone on silent, and I got a message at 2 a.m. from Gregor.
Not my usual message at 2 a.m, was it?
Which was why it was disappointing, to be fair.
And it's really good, and I couldn't have picked a better time to binge season 1 because season 2 starts on Friday. So I'm doubly excited because it still falls in within the 7 days of a free 7-day trial of Apple TV. But as a side note, if you're a Trek fan, it's a must watch. Ronald D. Moore is the showrunner, and he does an amazing job of it. It is absolutely brilliant television. Not only that, but also one of the producers is a guy called Naren Shankar, who's also the showrunner on The Expanse as well. So we've got real pedigree there. And funnily enough, I didn't know this until I read a bit more about Naren Shankar. He was actually a writer. He was part of Michael Pillar's writing team back in the day when Ronald D. Moore was a young boy on TNG and Deep Space Nine, etc. So for no other reason, it's worth checking out for that. I'm not going to say any more about it, but I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. But I could tell you're getting quite agitated now because I haven't told you what we're talking about. And
to be perfectly honest with you, I'm just making notes. I've decided to actually take this seriously and make notes.
But you've got a pen and paper.
No, I've got a crayon.
Crayon, yeah. Well, we can't really allow sharp objects within 6 feet of you, can we? So
that's why we're doing this via Zoom, because I can't go anywhere near your tongue.
Yeah. So what I want to talk about tonight, there's a couple of things that this will probably go off on tangents as usual. But we've got the
tangents.
Oh yeah. What was I talking about again?
I don't know. Beer.
Well, I'm going to get a beer in a minute. What are you on, by the way? I see you drinking beer. What are you drinking?
So I got a Japanese beer.
Is that the Kirin? Is it?
Kirin.
Yeah, Kirin's good.
Arigato gozaimashita.
Yeah, I've no idea. You sounded like the bad guys in one of the Star Wars prequels that had the really bad Japanese accents. Do you remember those guys?
Yes, I do.
Oh, well, that's kind of a putas. We had no idea George Lucas was so racist. George Lucas is racist.
I am, to be fair, I am actually better at the accent than I just performed there. So apologise to any Japanese speaking listeners who may have.
You're also better than the guys that had acting in that stupid Star Wars prequel as well. So kudos to you. But we've got. If you're a Star Trek fan,
the trade warriors.
The trade warriors.
Well, this went off the rails quickly.
Yeah. Return of a Jedi.
Die.
Yeah, let's not before we get into any more trouble.
I thought
Wasn't us? It was George. It was George Lucas. Disclaimer: it was George Lucas. We were having a go at the 2 listeners that we have. Okay.
And if you happen to be George Lucas, Lucasfilm fans, Star Wars fans, it's all good. Because we like Star Wars as well, to an extent. Some of, there are certain things just like Star Trek, there are certain things that we don't really particularly enjoy. Last Jedi. Sorry, I had a bit of a cough there.
If you happen to be George Lucas, I've got to be honest with you, George, and say I would actually let Disney dry arse rape me for the money that they gave you as well. So,
I Hey, I'll tell you what. I think, as disclaimers go, this podcast is fully supportive of the House of Mouse. Please don't. Honestly, I don't know if this is probably old news by now, but the actress in The Mandalorian has got the bullet. Yeah. Quite rightly so as well.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's just proof that the House of Mouse do not take prisoners.
I would get the bullet if I tweeted what she was tweeting. I'd get the bullet from my work. I would get in trouble at my work if I was tweeting what she tweeted.
Exactly, and it's the same with me as well, because at the end of the day, somebody could recognise me for what I do. They could go to my company and say, "Oh, that lad has tweeted this. Do you know that this guy worked?" And that did actually happen. There was a gentleman who worked for Lothian Buses who was, shall we say, very right wing. I mean, so far right, he couldn't even use his left indicator. That's how far right he was, and he was posting stuff on Twitter and Facebook. And somebody basically said to the company, "Do you know this guy's working for you? Are you happy that this guy's working for you?" And subsequently, as soon as they found out, he got the bullet, and quite rightly so as well. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I say, we fully respect the House of Mouse, so anything is just constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And
I can hear some fear in your voice there about the House of Mouse, but let's be fair, let's be honest, that there are podcasts out there that have said far worse about the Star Wars movies than we just
that is true.
With more than 2 viewers.
Funnily
if
enough,
you're listening in Texas and Aberdeen, more.
Funnily enough, on the subject of Aberdeen and our good friend and avid fan Ian Struthers, he posted recently that he was drinking some beer by the name of Stormtrooper Ale.
I saw that on his Facebook
and I was like,
page.
"Oh, okay, that looks actually pretty decent." Now, me being me, that was an open goal. I could not leave that one lying on the sideboard. I went straight in and said, "See, when you finished drinking that Stormtrooper Ale, when you went to the toilet, did you miss?"
He's wiping at the back of him with the mop. Look at the floor.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay. Stormtrooper jokes and Star Wars and House of Mouse aside, what are we actually supposed to be talking about today?
So, someone told me that once upon a time this was a Star Trek podcast. Okay. Now,
oh yeah, I remember that.
I'm about to tell you what it is, but I'm going to the fridge first, just to keep you in suspense for another 5 seconds.
Oh God, he's on Brewdog.
That's my refreshment topped up. It's the last one. It's a Wednesday night. I shall not be having any more than this one. So, you yourself, JJ, are a huge Voyager fan, are you not?
Yes. I would say yes if I was to pick a.
So, you must be awfully excited. I'm just wondering, could my new microphone, because I have a new microphone, folks, could it pick up the beer being poured there?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
And for the record, Brewdog, if you are listening, he has just poured one of your fine ales.
Yes, and our listener, or one of our listeners, 50%, listen, Brewdog, 50% of the audience of Spock the Week, we know for a fact, drink Brewdog. How's that for an advertising demographic for you?
I think they do it. I think they do export to the US as well. I think.
Oh yeah, they've got places in Tokyo and stuff like that because they have their pub chain and all that because they do all that equity stuff to finance their expansion. But yeah, for a couple of young lads that are in their early 30s, they're doing well.
Not bad. I mean, I'd be very surprised if they sell that stuff in America because, when you talk about a place where somebody comes to a party with a 6-pack of beer.
Don't insult our Texas listener.
Hey, I'm only going off of what we get in the movies. I'm only getting what we got from the movies. You know, if we turned up to a house party in this country with a 6-pack of beer, we'd be turned away and never invited back again.
Yeah.
The price of entry to Gregor's, for example, is a 24-pack of House 13. Anything less than 24, and I get to. Oh, it keeps the beer, but I get thrown out. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Let's. So
you are a huge Voyager fan. Now we have a pretty soon, I hope. I don't know. I'm not sure of the release date, but I think it's soon. A documentary about Voyager.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, they're still at the crowdfunding stage for this. They're still building up the funds to actually go ahead and film and produce it. From what I understand from listening to Garrett Wang and Robbie Duncan McNeil on their podcast, I'm just a few episodes behind on that one, so I'm not sure if any progress has been made at this point. But yeah, I think that's going to be something really, something to look forward to, because there's obviously the well-known issues they had behind the scenes on Voyager, particularly the spat between Kate Mulgrew and
Jerry Ryan.
Excuse me, sorry, frog in my throat. Jerry Ryan. And there's also there's all sorts of interesting things that some fans already kind of know about, but it'd be interesting to see, and more so what they remember right now, because there are one of the things I've noticed meeting and talking to Star Trek actors over the last couple of years is that some, when they go to conventions, for example, they just go and they're there because they're contractually obliged to be there. And then there are some that are there because they really thoroughly enjoy being a part of something greater than the sum of who they are. Robbie Duncan McNeil and Garrett Wang are two examples straight off the bat, because they, obviously they're doing this podcast, the Delta Flyers that they do. Robert Picardo, he's always a fan favorite at conventions and stuff like that. My experience with Kate Mulgrew wasn't exactly what I was expecting it to be, but like I said, I put that down to the fact that she flew into Birmingham on the Saturday night and flew out on the Sunday night, so she must have been jet lagged as hell. And I think she was still filming Orange is the New Black as well at the time, so, or something. Or she was doing something, and she was supposed to come, and then something happened, and then she managed to get in for the last minute to get things done and come in. But it's like she literally flew out and then flew in and flew out within a short period of time. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this documentary. I really am, because it'd be interesting to like I say, to learn a little bit more. And I hope that it is in the same vein as the DS9 documentary, which I have yet to watch, because I'm saving that until I've completed the Deep Space Nine watch through. But I believe that that's very much a warts and all, but a very sentimental warts and all documentary. You've watched it, you've seen it, so you can say yes or no, or
I'm in it.
Oh, okay. La-di-da.
And so is Sarah.
Care to elaborate?
I'm in it. I'm in it. Sarah's in it. And so is Joe Keegan, who's been on the show.
Okay, right. So how did this come about? Please elaborate.
It was in Vegas when they were doing the what was it they called it? It was they set up a camera and they were recording people talking into the camera about Deep Space Nine, and some of them featured in videos within the documentary, but I didn't feature in a video, and neither did Joe, and neither did Sarah, but we did get stills up in the documentary.
Oh, right. So your picture was in it, but you didn't have a speaking role.
Yeah. But a few people that I know are in it, because Mindy Madsen's in it. He's a great cosplayer from St. Louis, St. Louis, Utah. She's from, and she did her and Brooke Wilkins. They're in it together. When they actually were in Vegas and they'd done their Deep Space Nine cosplay. One was the station, one was dressed as the station, and one was dressed as the wormhole. So they came as a duo.
Okay, that's a.
And I was there, and there's a few other cosplayers that I photographed at conventions and stuff that I know quite well. Yeah, not close friends, but I know them that are in it as well. But so we've got that to look forward to, and it got me thinking about some of.
Well, that's dangerous.
I'm sorry.
You thinking that's dangerous?
I heard you. I said I'm sorry.
I know. I just wanted to say that twice.
It got me thinking about some of my favourite documentaries, and there's a couple of them I want to like. I mean, I don't know how many documentaries you've seen. Is there any that you've?
I have seen.
Obviously, but on my recommendation, I've said don't watch.
Yeah,
don't watch What You Leave Behind, because we're doing the Deep Space Nine watch through. Mm-hmm. You'll get far more out of it when you've seen the whole of Deep Space Nine.
I have seen For the Love of Spock, which I found. I mean, that's the only like Star Trek related one that I watched that I can remember watching, and I'm pretty sure I've watched one about Star Trek in general. I think there was one about that, but the For the Love of Spock one I found rather interesting because Leonard Nimoy was somebody that, even though I never watched TOS, you know, his character and who he was, and him as an actor as well, he was you know, quite prolific, very well known, and it's a household name. So to watch that documentary about him and about you know, it was, I enjoyed that. I thought it was interesting because for me as a Star Trek fan, there's two elements to being a Star Trek fan. There's watching the show and getting immersed in the story, in the environment, in the characters, in the ships and stuff like that, and that escapism from the reality of what's going on around us and just escaping into that episode or to that series or story arc. But on the back of that as well, we thoroughly enjoy going and meeting the actors. I mean, it was pretty much Star Trek that started the whole thing of going to conventions and meeting I mean, you had comic book conventions, hence Comic-Cons, but the whole TV star, TV, actors thing, that's something that we also enjoy. So it means that we like what we see and we can escape into that, but we also know that it isn't a TV show, and we're also interested in the behind the scenes stuff, the actors, who they are. Some people like the drama that goes on behind the scenes, some people don't. Some people like to know how they do certain shots and props and whatnot. So yeah, I think documentaries. I think there's something that have been quite lacking. I mean, in like the number of them for what we want. I mean, we've got all this new Trek, Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, but there's still a hunger for the original stuff. And I think a new Voyager documentary would feed that hunger, because we want to know more about what we love, what went before us. So, I actually want to go and rewatch that For the Love of Spock again now. I've not watched it for a little while now, but I'm tempted to go back and watch it again. Now you've brought it up.
Yeah, I liked For the Love of Spock. I think it's an interesting documentary in and of itself, whether you know anything about Star Trek or not. I think, and it's interesting if you don't know anything about Star Trek, and it's very interesting if you do know stuff about Star Trek. The more you know about Star Trek, the more you get out it. But I honestly believe if you showed it to someone who knew nothing about Star Trek, it's an interesting enough topic that they would really enjoy it. And I think that's down to what Adam Nimoy, who basically wrote and directed it, and obviously was Leonard Nimoy's son, and the producer David Zappone, who also made What We Left Behind, and he's made another documentary, which I'm going to come on to talk to in a moment, was what Adam was trying to do, because he was trying to partly go through this cathartic process of revisiting what his relationship with his father was. I don't think it was a bad relationship. I certainly don't think it was a perfect relationship by any manner of means. And in doing that process, and I think Adam, I'm paraphrasing him here, but I think Adam, in as many words as says that, Spock became such a big part of his father's life that while he was trying to make this film about his dad, it became impossible to separate Spock from his dad. In one aspect, that's not to say that Leonard Nimoy was walking about saying live long and prosper, but the connection between Spock and Leonard Nimoy became intrinsically interlinked. And what is clear, I mean, some of this stuff I did know about Leonard Nimoy at the time. I knew about the photography, I knew about how good a photographer he was. If you're a Star Trek fan, you already know he can write and direct, not just Star Trek, because he directed Three Men and a Baby as well. In fact, I think in sort of 1986, he was responsible as a film director for 2 of the top 10 grossing films of that year, which I think a year that contained Gremlins and a couple of other big blockbusters is really some good. And in and of itself, I think the best compliment I can say is that even if you don't like Star Trek, or even if you haven't heard of Star Trek, you probably watch that documentary and thoroughly enjoy it. You'll get engrossed in the story between Adam and his father. You'll get engrossed in Leonard Nimoy's creativity in Star Trek and out of Star Trek. It's a fascinating documentary.
I mean, one of the things I found interesting, which I kind of already knew before I watched the documentary, was, as you mentioned, Leonard Nimoy was a brilliant photographer. But one of the things I particularly liked about what he did as a photographer, as an artist in that sense, was he was very pro body positivity. He had photographed people of different sizes, body shapes and stuff like that. And he did a lot of nude photography as well, I believe. I've seen...
it was mostly black and whites he'd done.
Black and whites, but very, very noir. And I'd say it was brilliant. And I found that rather interesting about him. But there is another documentary that I watched, and it was Eugene Roddenberry that presented it.
Oh yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
I can't mind the name of it
either.
The one. But you know the one I'm on about, and that was an interesting one as well, because Eugene, growing up, he just he didn't want, not that he didn't want it, but he just had no interest in what his father did or what all this was. And when he was doing the documentary, he actually learned a lot about, he discovered a lot of things in it. And that was the wonderful thing about that particular documentary, was that he was on a journey with us. We were watching this and, discovering things and getting insights, and so was he. We were sort of finding things out at the same time he was finding things out. And it's kind of funny because I believe he is on. Is he down as one of the producers of the new stuff?
Yes.
He's an executive producer. So, I mean, wow. It's like all those years ago, Star Trek, yeah. And now he's credited as an executive producer. So, and he has a lot of input into these new things as well, which is good, and I think is amazing. So, yeah, the documentary side of it, I think, is something we could maybe do a little bit more on, a little bit more of. I mean, I would love to talk about the set building, the background, the studio side of things as well. That would be interesting. Don't know what you think about that.
Well, there's a fair amount on the DVDs in the extra section that usually they're talking to Zimmerman and Mike and Denise about all that world and set building that they done. Because obviously Mike and Denise done a lot of the graphics, and Zimmerman done a lot of the production sets and gave the world its look. But so there is actually quite a lot of stuff on the DVD extras. If you have a wee look at them. But
what's a DVD?
A Blu-ray, whatever, Do you know what I did this week? You started it because you said, what's a DVD? You started this.
You remember 8-tracks, you.
I was looking through our collection.
Did you find Debbie Does Dallas?
I've got that in VHS, actually. I really have got that in VHS.
Moving swiftly on.
I found our Blu-ray copies of 2009 Into Darkness and Beyond.
I actually have those on Blu-ray as well, so...
I don't anymore.
Right, okay. I know you're not a fan, but...
they got Marie Kondoed.
Yes, and
I held them in.
Surprisingly,
I held them in my hand, and they did not bring me joy, and certainly not as much joy as the thing I had in my left hand.
I don't even want to know what was in your left hand. Oh, and just in case you are curious, I actually do know who Marie Kondo is.
Most people with a Netflix account know who Marie Kondo is.
Yes, so. But it's probably one of those things that most people have just gone, no. Most blokes would probably go, tidying up with nope.
No, I'm the opposite. I've got to sit Sarah down and watch, because there's another one called The Minimalists. And I have to sit Sarah down and say, you are watching this.
Oh, is Sarah the hoarder out of the two of you,
yeah,
is she?
Yeah. I'm like, bucket, get rid of it. So, yeah, coming back to documentaries, because I think that's what we were talking about a wee while ago. Yeah. So, just very quickly before we leave For the Love of Spock, it's certainly on Netflix in the UK. I don't know about the US, but it's certainly on Netflix in the UK. So
it'll probably be CBS All Access if in the States, probably.
No, it's Old Trek. It's not going to be CBS All Access. But another one, and this one's also on Netflix in the UK, and possibly in America as well. It's a different paced documentary, shall we say. It's got all the quick cuts and talking heads that talk for 4 seconds and then someone else talks, which is not a style of documentary that I like, but the content's there, so I like it. There's one called Kate. Sorry?
That's unusual for that kind of documentary because Are you clicking a pen?
Yeah. And you can hear that. Oh, wow, I love this microphone.
Great. That's going to be annoying in the edit. No, going back to that style of documentary. Yes, it picks up everything. So don't fart, whatever you do. So that style of documentary, I've seen them a few times. The fast-paced, like I say, people 4 seconds, and you usually find that if you're acute enough, you find that the same thing gets repeated multiple times, or the same subjects gets talked about multiple times, but in different, phrased differently. If you've ever watched Abandoned Engineering, that's I don't know if that's aired in the US on any TV channel, but we have it on, I think it's Yesterday, I think is the channel that we have it on here. But anyway, that does it really badly. It's like, this is a wall that's been abandoned, and then there's like 7 different people go, oh, wow, oh, it's a wall, oh, what does it do, oh, and different, that's this. So for you to say that style of documentary has the content must mean it's half decent.
Yeah, well, it's called Chaos on the Bridge, and it's the story essentially of the first 3 seasons of TNG, and it's a pretty decent documentary.
I have seen that one. Is that the one where they have the writers and the showrunners and stuff talking about how so and so wanted it done this way, but it was done this way, and
yeah, I mean, because going back to sort of 85, 86 when they were talking about it and they were trying to launch it, a lot of the people that were wouldn't have been that much older than when they were working on TNG. People like Bob Justman, 18, 19 years older, but they were still working. They weren't retired or anything. Bob Justman, DC Fontana on the writing staff, Gene himself, Majel. So yeah, there's a lot of them that were involved at that time. I mean, this is getting on to a slightly different conversation in terms of what happened between season 1 and season 3, which is covered in the documentary. And let's be honest here. Gene, for all he created it, he didn't do a great job at the beginning of TNG with his control issues and a little bit of bitterness as well, and having seen that his franchise being taken away from him in Star Trek 2 when he got kicked off. After Star Trek 1, he got kicked off, and he's seen the TV shows his chance to redeem himself. And yes, what I will say, it is far closer to Gene's original image of what Star Trek should be, and that is the imprint that he left on Star Trek, than what the original series was. Because when they did bring him back, and he was the ultimate holder of the intellectual property, they had to do it his way.
Mm-hmm.
And then that saw the creation. I'm now talking about what goes on, what they're talking about the documentary. That saw the creation of what became the Roddenberry box, and then you had Maurice Hurley come in season 2 from Miami Vice, and Roddenberry was still involved, and Maurice was quite keen, along with Rick Berman was becoming more heavily involved than Bob Justman by now in season 2, but they had the difficulty with season 2 was the writer's strike.
Mm-hmm.
So they were now creating this Roddenberry, the Roddenberry box is what we would now know it, and keeping it close to the vision while trying to sort of shuffle Gene to the side and let other creatives come in, which eventually happened with season 3, and Michael Piller came on. And what should be said that the people that came on board at that stage, Rick Berman getting full control, Michael Piller taking over the writing room, but still respecting the original vision and ethos of what the series would be. And basically, Chaos on the Bridge is that story of how they got from 1985 to not wanting to cast a bald Shakespearean English actor as a Frenchman to...
I've actually seen the test photographs of Patrick Stewart with the wig, and I'm so glad they did not go with that. But on the note of a Englishman playing a Frenchman, to be fair, the best Frenchmen are played by people from Yorkshire. And if you want to know why I say that, watch Allo Allo.
Oh, Jesus. Look, we got pretty close to a libel case earlier, not 20 minutes ago, and now you're
wrong?
You're going to have Emmanuel Macron coming after us now.
Nah. How many gears does a French tank have?
Oh, right, stop it. I'm stopping recording. Right, moving on. I've got to get you back in the next episode, by the way. These are all noted. I'm the producer of this episode. See, the next time when it's your turn to be the producer, boy, are you in trouble. So, I'd like to. We've spoken about a couple of the documentaries. And obviously, there's the crowdfunding stuff that goes on with What We Left Behind and the Voyager one. And we've spoken about Chaos on the Bridge. We've spoken about For the Love of Spock. I very quickly want to mention one more, but I want to talk about something else that's documentary related.
Okay.
So I don't want to get bogged down with this. But the other one, I think it's on, the other one that's on Netflix, I believe, still, certainly in the UK, possibly in America, is The Captains, and it's William Shatner basically going around and talking to...
Oh, yeah, I have seen that, yeah.
He talks to Scott Bakula, and he talks to Chris Pine, and he talks to Patrick Stewart, he talks to Kate Mulgrew, and he talks to Avery Brooks, which is a very strange conversation.
I remember watching that with my partner, Ruth, and she made some comments regarding Avery Brooks that were like, wow, he's not all there, is he? He's like, wow. I mean, I was, to be fair, right, the only time I'd ever seen Avery Brooks was in character on the TV watching Deep Space Nine. Watching The Captains, that documentary there, that was the first time I'd actually seen him, heard him outside of that role. And it sort of took me back a little bit, to be honest with you. Because, I don't know the full story with Avery, so if you know, fill me in by all means, but it seems like, is that the same man, that gave that speech, that epic speech in Deep Space Nine, the monologue, the one I'm on about,
In the Pale Moonlight.
That's the one, yeah. And it's like, is that the same guy? It's like, that's a different, wow, I was not expecting that.
But yeah, The Captains is a good one as well. It's worth watching.
And if you've got the Blu-ray remasters of the films, the original series and TNGs, there's also a DVD in there that's The Captain's Table or something along those lines, hosted by Whoopi Goldberg, where they interview in a panel sort of environment the various captains. Patrick Stewart's there, I think. I don't know if William Shatner's in that one. I'm not 100% sure, but off the top of my head. But that one's a reasonably good one as well. And just on a side note, I watched somebody posted on Twitter or YouTube or something stupid like that, some footage from when the TNG cast were helping out with the American version of like what we do with
Children in Need.
What's it, comic relief or some comic relief.
Yeah, I never get any comic relief when I'm on one of these things with you. But
And I just watched that, and it was just Commander Data saying, "Here's something. This person, Whoopi Goldberg," and I can't do that line justice because Data saying Whoopi Goldberg. It just you can picture it in your head. It's a funny thing to hear. But anyway, that was just a side note, having mentioned Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah. Okay. So we've spoken about a few of the official documentaries that are out there, and the content, the information content, if for want of a better word, that's out there regarding Trek and the creation of Trek and the history of Trek. If there's any others that we've not mentioned, please put them in the comments. For myself, I'd love to see them, hear them,
at Spock
discuss
Week,
them. Yeah.
Email, whichever. Just get in touch, and like I say, we'll.
But what I'd like to talk about now is actually a YouTube channel called Trexpertise.
All right, okay.
Which is run by a guy called Kyle. So it's just him. Well, I think he has a small production team. He's got a little sideline now called Classic Flicks, which I'll mention in a minute. But I specifically want to talk about Trexpertise. The guy, I think, I'm working on a supposition here based on the content that he creates. I think he's been a film student, and he seems to be a bit of a filmmaker as well, because he's trying to get a film that he's made with some of his colleagues into film festivals. It's a short film he's trying to get into film festivals at the moment. But Trexpertise is a good one. He does really good videos on YouTube about he'll do character analysis. He does a brilliant one on Gul Dukat. He does some really good stuff on the history of different species, whether it be the Klingons or Romulans. He'll do deep dives into series, he'll do deep dives into films, and his sideline Classic Flicks, they do him and his colleagues do some really good discussions on the movies, all the movies. They do some really good, interesting discussions on there. You don't have to wait for these official stuff. There is actually quite a lot of really good, high quality, informative and engaging content out there. If you know where to find it.
Well, that's half the battle, especially with YouTube, is finding the genuine, sympathetic people that do the research, and not out to slag something off. They're out to genuinely shine the light on, like you say, characters, races, whatever. It's difficult to find that stuff, because whenever you search for Star Trek or a Star Trek character or Star Trek, 9 times out of 10, the first 50 or so research results, are mixed in with some of the what I call rant tube. The ones, we'll not mention any on here because I don't want to give any, some of them any time of day, but there are some that are just purely out there just to sling mud, and you know what I'm on about, don't you?
Yeah. Basically, it's about monetization. So
I
will say there's people on the other side of that argument talk absolute rubbish as well.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I mean, the thing is,
there's more on the negative side, but there are.
But the key to that particular point is lack of research and lack of knowledge. Because even somebody with the best of intentions, with the best of love for a TV program or a franchise, trying to promote or trying to do something positive can actually be, as bad as somebody doing it to destroy, if they don't have the knowledge and they don't have the research. That's why I tend to steer away from Deep Space Nine as much as possible, because I don't know a lot about it, whereas you do. So when we do have discussions on that, like I say, it's pointed in your direction. Even though I'm a Voyager fan, I'm not one of these fans that knows every episode, every inch of the ship inside out.
Give us your best defense of Threshold.
There is no defense for Threshold. It's one of those episodes that was just, it was daft. It was I think, to be honest with you, I think somewhere there must be a contractual obligation for any Star Trek franchise to have at least one episode that is just off the chain. What the actual? I mean, but I say indefensible, but it's indefensible in a good way, because it is. I mean, it's that bad. It's good. I mean, you've got others, TNG, Sub Rosa. You know.
What's wrong with boning your grand's dead boyfriend's ghost? Come on, what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? The fact that you were actually asking what's wrong with that is what's wrong with that. But I like to say, I don't think there's, and I say indefensible, but indefensible in a way that to try and defend it for what it isn't, I think spoils the magic of what it is. It is one of those, like I say, with those, I like to call them lemon episodes, the one episode that just serves no purpose. I mean,
they call them ship in a bottle episodes, and there's.
But even so,
ship in a bottle, I guess, is different from a lemon.
But there are a lot more of the other episodes. What was that? Because I never saw Sarah walk into that room.
I heard a cup smash.
Right. Anyway,
that's the first smash cup in the new living room, folks. If you're not aware, I moved house 2 weeks ago. And that's the first smash. Sarah, my partner Sarah, before she comes back in the room, she has another name. Oh, I see a door moving.
Oh, you're in trouble. Stay tuned, folks. This is about to get interesting.
My partner Sarah has another name. When she's not Sarah, project manager, she is Sarah, the destroyer of stuff. Your china teacups and fine wine glasses will cower before me.
Right, just bear with me while I message her. Done.
I've called her that to her face. Ooh. She said she's asking if I'm nearly finished. She must be wanting me.
Something tells me that she will not be wanting you. Well, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard live on air Gregor getting his leash tugged. Are you nearly finished? That's 45 minutes.
Repeat after me.
All you can do is run to the end of your leash and bark. Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, Gregor is being called in. The lights have come on in the street, and it's time to go home and get his bottom smacked.
Ooh, yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening in this week once again. We do appreciate you taking the time to listen to us too. Gregor has been brilliant this week. I think he's done a good job of running the show. I think he should do it again sometime. What do you think? He's shaking his head.
Okay, yes. Anything you say, boss.
So please do get in touch. Like I say, we want to know who you are. We've got listeners. We keep getting downloads from various places around the world. Just drop us a line and just say, hey, I'm so-and-so from such and such a place, and tell us what you like, what you don't like. And we are open to suggestions. Okay? Constructive criticism is always good. We always want to improve and do better and bring you the content that you want to listen to as well. And like I say, you're more than welcome, as Gregor said earlier on in the show. If you want to join us, let us know, and we'll arrange and get you on board with that as well. So
yeah. If you download the show, if you listen to the show, put something in the comments. If you want to come on, get in touch with us. If you want us to talk about something, tell us. If you want to ask us something, ask us. That's what we're here for.
It's exactly, because at the end of the day, we're not doing this for us. We're doing this for Ian,
and at this moment in time, unknown Texas listener.
Yes, the unknown podcast
listener. Sorry, not unknown, unidentified Texas listener.
A UTL.
Are you unidentified
Texas listener?
Yeah, we've got a UTL,
well,
unidentified Texas listener. Yeah.
Yes. So please, don't worry. I mean, like I say, if you don't want to be mentioned on the show, that's perfectly fine. Just let us know. But if you want a shout out, we'll give you a shout out as well. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for another episode of Spock the Week. I've been John, aka the Alba Androids. You can find me on Twitter at Alba Android, and he has been.
I've been Gregor, also known as Crabbit Ginger, on Twitter, and I had a rant about Wetherspoon's pubs this week on Twitter.
Oh, check that out, guys. Check that out. Also, as well, if you want to say thank you, or if you just want to be that great guy that you meet in the bar, you can also go to buymeacoffee.com/Spock the Week pod, and you can buy us a pint to say thank you. You can also subscribe, follow us, and we will put updates on the Buy Me a Coffee page and also on our Twitter page as well, which is at Spock Week. At Spock Week, just Spock Week, not leave the just at Spock Week.
All one word, Spock Week.
Yes. Can you tell the Japanese beer is starting to?
Oh, Jesus. We've been there. Stop it.
Okay. Sayonara.
Live long and live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Next week for more Spock the Week action, and never miss an episode by subscribing to the podcast on the catcher that you are listening to us on. If you want to follow us on Twitter, then you can find us at Spock the Week. Drop us a message, tell us how we're doing, or make a suggestion. We're welcome to all input from all our fans. So don't hesitate to get in touch and follow us on Twitter and on our Facebook page as well. Why not join us in 10 Forward if you like what we do and want to say thank you? The link for our Buy Me a Coffee page is in the show notes, so please check that out, and hopefully we'll see you there. If not, we will see you next week. Live long and prosper. It's up to you. As long as you come back next week and listen to us once again, we'll be happy to have you back. Live long and prosper.